Welcome to 2015, Pete.
Thank you.
Tell me about your year. Now how many years is this for you?
This is going to be my seventh Cusco now. All of a sudden, yep. Seems like it was just yesterday is my first one in '09, I think. So, yeah.
Now I have a picture of you racing, I believe, the dash. So when was your first race on the end of the runners?
Oh, probably before the dash, like kids races around the island when I was really young. But I think my first dash, Akiak dash, was 2003. So.
So here we are 12 years later on your seventh Cusco,
Yeah.
and this will be the fifth Iditarod?
This will be the sixth
Sixth
Iditarod.
Iditarod.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as I was going through the files. Holy cow, this has gone really
It
fast.
has very fast.
At the beginning of the fall, when I talked to you, you were really jazzed. And if snow was going to show up, it looked like it was going to be a good deal. How did the fall to winter materialize this year?
Well, our fall training was good. The fall training usually is uninterrupted by weather. It really doesn't change what we can do until it freezes, and then if it freezes without snow, then it kind of really limits what you can do because we're out training on the tundra. So this year it kind of happened again. We got a little bit of snow in October, got our hopes up a little bit, and then that went away, and we ended up with frozen ground again. And then instead of like last year, what I did was hung around for pretty much all of November waiting for snow, and it never happened. So this year I got right out of here and went to Nenana and tried not to have that month long of not ideal training. Yeah, the actual training just for the dogs in Nenana is really good. It's they have much more predictable weather and consistent type of weather where you can actually plan a few days in advance of what you're going to do as far as planning your running. And so in that way it's good. But then I have less support up there, and you're kind of on your own, living out of a suitcase kind of with 25 dogs. So in that aspect it's a little more difficult, but it allows you to be real focused on what you're doing. There's not a lot of distractions, and the trails are good. And comparing it to Bethel, I think this is one of the best places to train out here on a good year that we have snow. And we have a lot of trails we can use. The traffic from the villages is almost constant, so there's always a trail to use. You don't have to go do any work to the trails. If it snows the next morning, there's traffic and you can go use a trail. And it offers some tough training conditions that you don't get other places. It forces you to go train in the wind and train in the open and train on the ice and do all that kind of stuff. So when you have snow out here and decent weather, then this is really good. So but when it's bad out here, there's really no comparison to going to a place like Nenana or somewhere where you can just keep consistently training and not having 6-7 days off here where it's raining and so yeah.
Well, talk about that. You know how when you know the weather's always going to be good. Do you if you compared it to a teacher in a classroom where they could kind of prepare a curriculum for their class, can you kind of look, how far out can you look?
Well, not too far. A few days is about the farthest I ever plan, and a lot of times I leave on a run not knowing how far I'm going to go and decide when I get out there, because a lot of it's based on how the dogs look and stuff like that. But when you're training out here, you can plan to be leaving in the morning, and you get up in the morning and it's blowing 40 and it's 60 below wind chill and you're just not going. So you get a lot of interruptions out here. But like I said, when it's good out here, it's really good, and I think you can train a really well-rounded dog team out here because they see a lot of different stuff out here on a good year. It's almost impossible to find a place where you're going to train that's going to offer everything to have a completely well-rounded dog team. And like, training out here this year just really wasn't an option for me, and so I think you couldn't find a better place than that where you can train on a consistent basis like I was able to. And yeah, it's a lot of 3-year-old dogs, so they're not their mental capacity is what I'm not sure of yet. They're probably kind of in their physical prime right now at 3, but they'll probably be in their mental prime in the next couple of years.
So let's talk about what happens race day. It's been pretty challenging. It's almost like going to the Iditarod in a way, because you've moved. You've had to actually come to it's, even though you're coming to Bethel, but you've moved here. So talk about that and the logistics of race day.
Well, this day is actually kind of laid back. This start and being in the evening is different than if you had a 10 a.m. or noon start, where it's kind of a real hustle and bustle in the morning type deal. everybody kind of gets a lot of their stuff ready the night before, kind of because you're starting the next day, but in all reality, you have the whole day the next day to get ready. So it's kind of nice to have this whole day. The only problem is you might end up pacing around for 2 or 3 hours when you're done with everything, waiting to go down to the line. So yeah, there's been quite a bit of stuff to do, and just getting back into the rhythm of being around other people too. I've been a little bit of a hermit for the last 2 months, and kind of a culture shock coming in and being around a bunch of people every day.
Well, do you still get nervous? I mean, butterflies
There's
or
definitely nerves involved. I think there's no such thing as not having, a little bit of butterflies in your stomach. But I mean, everybody's just so invested into this. But nothing like my first race. So kind of hopefully kind of got this whole routine down. The start and leading up to the start is kind of the same process every year, so it takes some of the stress out.
talk about this race. This year's race, you're not doing the Whitefish Lake.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually I don't think there's any trail stuff. It's all the river.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this race and the challenges that you think that you'll have?
Well, the main challenge is going to be the trail. It's less than ideal, but it's not terrible. I've seen it worse before, and I'm curious to get out and actually see what it looks like firsthand, because, like I said, I've been gone and I haven't even been out on the river. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think it's going to be a fast race. There's very little resistance. There's just awesome dog teams, and the distance is shortened a little bit. And so I think there's a lot of teams that are just going to go flying. I think we're going to have a really tight race down to the wire.
Traditionally, you like to hang back and then kind of let teams just play their card, so to speak. With a race like this, does your strategy change?
Well, with the shortened distance and the speed that's going to be involved in this, ideally I wouldn't like to get too far behind. I'm going to run my team as fast as they can comfortably go, meaning I don't want to go any faster than they're comfortable doing, and jeopardize the last quarter of the race going slower than I want to go. So all I can do is go as fast as they can comfortably go and see what that gets us. So I don't have any control over how fast the other teams go or how slow the other teams go, but ideally I would like to be, getting to Calskag not too far behind. That's kind of that first run is you kind of got to balance taking too much out of the tank and getting too far behind. So, there's probably 10 mushers that could win this race that are here right now. And, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to do well that's not a surprise. And then there's going to be a few teams that'll probably do well that were kind of a surprise. But it's just there's so much talent here. It's just ridiculous. So this race could play out almost any possible way, and you really wouldn't surprise you. There's a lot of teams that can win and do well.
Great. Let's talk sponsors in this section here.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, with the travel and the back and forth, and maybe have to go back to Nenana again, I imagine that's been pretty challenging on the pocketbook.
Yeah, it's kind of a whole different level of spending when you have to pack up and leave and stuff like that. So it's kind of been a unforeseen expense in the last 3 years, different than the normal staying home and doing it right out of the kennel here. But I have some awesome sponsors that have been able to, make this happen. Northern Air Cargo is a big sponsor that helps fly me back and forth, and that's, big thank you to them. Linden has been my employer and one of my sponsors for 5 or 6 years now. Ryanair is a big sponsor. Drew's Foundation and the O'Brien family, Southwest Fuel, my Uncle Mike, Dr. Bob Sepp, Bering Sea Animal Clinic, all my friends and family in Bethel, and supporters up and down the Kuskokwim River. I have tons of support from this community, and that's probably one of the most rewarding things I've experienced through this whole dog mushing is the support from this region. And Alaska Technologies, John Wallace, the website and the interviews and the pictures, it's all awesome, keeps the fans happy, and it's good for the sport to keep that aspect of it going. The fans kind of drive the sport, and you got to keep them entertained.